All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Monday, March 13th. It's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat. So Clayton, uh, this weekend, an amazing weekend at the box office. Everything overperforming, and it was Oscar weekend. But I would say the best picture this weekend was not Everything Everywhere All at Once. It was the sixth installment of a horror franchise. Was the true best picture this weekend. So Clayton, why don't you give us a plow for the weekend of Friday, March 10th?
Number one, Scream 6 made $44.4 million in its first frame. Number two, Creed 3 made $27.2 million, down 53%. It now stands at $101 million in its second weekend. Number three, 65 made $12.3 million in its first weekend. Number four, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania made $7.1 million. It plummeted another 44%. It is just leaking theaters. 720 were lost, and it's standing at $198.1 million in its fourth weekend. And rounding out our top five, Cocaine Bear made $6.2 million, down 44%. It lost 367 theaters. It's at $51.7 million in its third weekend. And here's a little bonus one. Number six, Champions, the Bobby Farrelly, Woody Harrelson movie, $5.1 million in its first frame.
Wow. And you know what? I'll go one further. A bonus to the bonus. Jesus Revolution in its third weekend made 5.1.3 million. So just a hair behind Champions. That movie is now at $39.4 million. Jesus, I'll say it, is maybe the strongest he has been in almost 20 years. I would say since Passion of the Christ, I do not think Jesus has been as relevant as he is at the box office right now with this Jesus Revolution. An incredible run for the Jesus.
Yeah, so let's talk about newbies though,
Let's get
because
into these
we've got
newbies. Yeah.
three new movies, and I think we're really only going to talk about two actually, because Champions. Let's just quickly talk about Champions. 5.1. This could be a grower, not a shower, but
Mm-hmm.
5.1 for this type of movie, focus feature, comedy, but not necessarily a super broad comedy like the Farrellys are known for. But now that the Farrellys have parted ways, looks like Bobby is doing the more uh, comedy forward
Okay.
movies, but it still seems to have a little bit of drama involved.
Yeah. Well, the Farrelly brothers have always had some heart in their movies. And I think Champions, continues that. I mean, listen, Kingpin had heart. Kingpin had a sadness and an ennui to it. And I'm sure Champions follows suit there. Listen,
Uh,
$5.1 million,
I'm
5.1
just, yeah.
million is a very nice overperformance for a movie that we thought was going to cry macho.
We thought it would be
Crime.
DOA. The
Yep.
thing is that I want to just clarify. I'm not saying that there wasn't heart in these movies. Obviously, like
Hmm.
Kingpin, Dumb and Dumber, Something About Mary, they did have heart. What I think this movie probably lacks is semen and bodily fluids.
Hmm.
Maybe not completely. Listen, I haven't
We
seen this
haven't seen
movie.
it.
I intend to see this movie. I would assume there's less semen in this movie than in Something About Mary. I would just go out on a limb. I mean, Kingpin, there's a whole bucket of
Right.
full semen. Not to
Right.
ruin a great joke,
Right.
but there's got to be less semen in Champion. So that's what I'm saying. It's less gross out.
We're, we're
Possibly was what I'm looking to say.
we're basing that assumption on the fact that we haven't heard any buzz of semen in Champions.
I
I
feel
feel
like
like
that
if
would have trickled down to us if there was a lot of semen in Champions.
yeah, the semen would have trickled down by now if there was a lot of semen in Champions. So I agree. There probably isn't much semen. There's probably more heart than semen in
Hmm.
Champions.
Yeah.
Listen, we went over Woody Harrelson's box office a little bit last week on the preview episode. He's obviously a star, famous person, great actor, been around for 30 now, probably almost 40 years. But he's never been a above the title blockbuster movie star. This
Mm-mm.
doesn't make him that, but 5.1 million shows that Woody Harrelson is still someone that people want to see at a certain level. He could open a movie like this higher than you would expect it would be. So I think this feels like a slight win for Woody Harrelson and Bobby Farrelly, but like you said, this is a movie that's got to have staying power to
Mm-hmm.
really end up in the win column. I think
Yeah.
they're
And
in
I
the
think
game now. They're in the game.
absolutely. And I think you have, these sorts of movies. You spoke on Jesus Revolution, these sort of salt of the earth type movies. And I think the
Mhm.
Farrelly brothers are salt of the earth directors in
Yep.
a way.
At this point,
They
yes.
yeah, they transfer over to middle America. So I mean, middle
Mhm.
America is seeing movies again.
Yeah. Yes.
Thanks to Top Gun Maverick. Maverick made it safe for them to come back to the theater, and you're seeing it in the emergence of these sorts of movies. Now, listen, they're not making Creed 3 money, they're
No.
not making Scream 6 money,
No.
but Champions and Jesus Revolution are not meant to make that sort of money.
No. And also, Champions will probably not end up making Jesus Revolution money. I mean,
No,
Jesus
no, this is
Revolution is a
yeah.
legit hit within that genre. Champions would have a long ways to go before they get to Jesus level, but it's a good start. It's a good start for Champions.
Well,
Uh,
let's talk about another good starter, like a surprising start here. 65 at number
okay.
3. 12.3 million. Now, this was tracking in single digits, and
Yes.
Sony
Yes.
seemed to be okay with that. I mean, listen, they weren't
Hmm.
over the moon about it, but they seemed to think this movie, as you said over the weekend, I did not know this. This movie was kind of on the shelf for a little bit. They were trying
Yep.
to figure out when to put it out. They decided to put it out this weekend, and I'm surprised in a weekend that had Scream 6, Creed 3, Cocaine Bear still kicking some butt that this movie ended up making 12. That is pretty good for this movie, and it was only in 3,400 theaters, so it wasn't a huge theater count for this one either.
Well, I can't say I'm surprised because I nailed it on our weekend preview episode. I said $12 million and it made 12 million. So it'd be disingenuous for me to sit here and say I'm surprised
I
that
feel like you said
65.
11. Are you
I said
sure?
12.
You
I
said
am
12.
sure. I
Okay,
said 12 million for 65. Nailed
okay.
it. Listen, this is a movie that shows you just how well the box office is doing and just how much people want to go to the theaters because it's not a well-reviewed movie.
Mm-mm.
It's it's a movie that has a famous person and a star in quotes, but not a movie star who opens things in Adam Driver. Yet it made 12 million because it had the premise of it's going to be an action movie with dinosaurs, and that was enough to get $12 million worth of people interested. This is the type of movie that shows people will go to the movies for the sake of going to see a big movie or a movie that seems biggish. Also, a thing we found out in the last couple of days, 65 is not nearly as expensive as some of the earlier thoughts. This movie apparently had a budget of 45 million. So a
That's
dinosaur movie,
reasonable.
it's a pretty reasonable budget. If anything, it makes this more interesting to me because that then feels pretty low budget for a dinosaur movie. So now
Mhm.
I am curious to see these potentially like janky looking dinosaurs because
Maybe they don't show them as much. I mean, it's one of those things where you can get away with maybe not showing the dinosaurs in full until the very end.
right. I think you're right. I think this is probably a movie that does not have a. I doubt that the dinosaurs in 65 are running after him and you could see them like head to toe. I feel
Mhm.
like there is a lot of like dinosaurs mostly being covered by trees. This scene you just see a dinosaur claw. Maybe another scene you're seeing one tooth of a dinosaur because for 45 million they're basically only able to afford one dinosaur body part at a time.
Well, dark and rain, I mean, those are your best friends when it comes to special effects, especially dinosaur special effects. So
Yeah.
just make it dark and rainy.
Yeah. So this movie overperformed, even though I called
Mhm.
it. It overperformed others' expectations. What do you think the reason? I mean, obviously, this movie didn't overperform and make 25, 30 million. It overperformed by a few million. But what do you chalk this up to?
I chalk it up to people wanting to go to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
listen, Scream, we'll get to it, biggest opening of the whole franchise. We're talking one, two, three. That's big. But there's a
Yes.
lot of people that aren't into horror movies. There's
Mm-hmm.
not people that are like, I don't want to see people get butchered. I
Mm-hmm.
want to see Adam Driver as a futuristic spaceman shoot dinosaurs. There are
Yes.
people in the world that want that. And guess what? Now that we have options at the theater again, they have that option.
Right.
And it
Right.
looked like 63% of guys, it was guys at 63%,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm looking at these demos here.
Yep.
58% were between 18 and 34, right? That's the prime demo.
Mm-hmm.
48% Caucasian, 23% Latino and Hispanic, 12% Black, and 17% Asian. So, a lot of Caucasians came out for this. But
Yes.
you know what?
Yes.
These other demos, 23 Latino and Hispanic, that's not bad.
That's not bad. No, and 17% Asian, a little
Yeah.
overperforming there. Yeah, this wasn't uh it wasn't just a Caucasian people's movie. It was
Mhm.
more Caucasian, but about the national average or the, so the dinosaurs really didn't discriminate here.
Mhm.
Everyone had a slight interest in dinosaurs.
Yeah, and I think I mean, there's so many things you can be like, "Whoa, is Adam Driver a bigger star than we thought?" Or all these other, thoughts as to why this made money. And I think, yeah, people like Adam Driver well enough. I mean, he's not a butch
Mhm.
in your seats movie star for sure, but they know him as Kylo Ren. They may
Right.
know him from Girls, right? But I
Right.
think at the end of the day, people want to get out and go to the movies. And it's something we've talked about before where it's like, everybody says the theaters are dead. Everybody says theatrical's dying, and yeah, there was some tough times because there wasn't product,
Right.
you
Right.
know? But when there's product, people go
Right.
because the people who say nobody wants to go to the theaters are the people who are sitting at their computers typing these things, and they
Yes.
don't wanna go anywhere,
Right.
right? They want to review movies through links
Right.
that they can then watch on their laptops and stream to their smart TVs, or they just watch on their smart TVs. That's where that thought comes from. People out in the world wanna be out in the world, and
Right.
they wanna go see movies in the theater and be around people. That's just the
Right.
facts. So people saying that nobody wants to go to the theater anymore, those are people that are commenting online who are at home.
And so with 65, this movie, not super high budget, 12 million, not a great opening, but I think something to keep in mind here is that Sony has a big deal with Netflix where
It's gonna be
they get
huge
that.
on Netflix.
It's going to be huge on Netflix. And in order to cash in on that deal with Netflix, Sony has to make big movies that Netflix will then want to put on their streaming service. And
Mhm.
65 getting a big theatrical release, that qualifies to be a movie that Netflix then will get to pay Sony a lot of money for the rights to. And it'll do better on Netflix because it was in the movie theaters, as opposed to if 65 was just some Netflix movie that dropped
Uh
on a Friday.
Adam Project. The difference between this and the
Yes.
Adam Project is that people will watch this film because it was on they will watch it for more than just one weekend,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And it'll have longer legs because people will be able to look at it and they'll listen to the BO boys, and the BO boys will say, "This overperformed."
Yes.
And Pat will
Yes.
claim that he nailed it, and there's no evidence that he actually did. But listen, they're not gonna go back.
Wannabe intern Christopher. I think if you look through last weekend's weekend preview episode, you'll find me saying $12 million prediction for 65. So
Listen,
wannabe
maybe
intern
I heard
Christopher.
11, but maybe I'm crazy. Anyway, they'll
Yeah.
listen to this episode and they'll listen to that episode and they'll know you're wrong. And then it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, they'll think, oh, that was a movie in the theater that did better than it was expected to. I'm going to watch this on Netflix.
Right. 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 They'll watch it on Netflix and they'll say Pat nailed it on the weekend preview episode, 12 million. That's what he
Or
said.
they
So
say Pat thought he
let's
nailed it
move
and he didn't, but that's
let,
beside the point.
let's move on from 65, which of course that number is 53 million more than what my prediction was, which was 12 million last weekend.
Sure,
So
sure.
65 doing great at 12 million, nailed it. Let's go to the number one movie of the weekend. So Scream 6, which was
Mhm.
it's a rushed into production sequel to last year's Five Cream. You know, that
Yeah,
movie came out in January 2022. The sequel is out in theaters here in March of 2023. So, like a year and a couple of months later.
but that's
And
a this first sequel, number 2 came out
yep,
very quickly after the first one.
yep.
Mirroring
And
that number 2 in a lot of ways, this movie.
yeah, so you and I saw this movie in the movie theaters, and we're not critics, huh? And we're not going to
Huh?
spoil, huh?
Huh?
And I think we both like this fine, maybe me more than you, but about as much as we like the fifth one,
Yeah.
you know. And I would say there's one bad Scream movie, which is Scream 3, and I think you would say there has never been a bad Scream movie.
There's never been a bad. There's
There's
only less amazing, I guess,
right,
Scream movies.
right. So now this movie doing
Mhm.
$44.4 million dollars, overperforms, beats expectations. It is the biggest opener in the history of the Scream franchise.
Mhm.
So, let's get into Scream as a franchise. Is it somehow healthier than it ever has been before? Is this the strongest the Scream IP has ever been?
I mean, the thing with the first one was that it built so slowly. So you
Right.
can't really look at that opening. If you're talking about impact and ubiquity, if you're feeling its ubiquity,
Mhm.
the first movie can't be topped because that movie was everywhere, everybody's talking about it, and it kind of snowballed into this big movie, but the opening was paltry, right?
Right.
Second one had a pretty nice opening, and it kinda legged out too. Third
Yep.
one, big opening, and then, right? Terrible.
The third one, big opening, 34 million and ended at 89 million domestic.
Oh, so that's still
Actually,
great.
no, not nearly the not nearly the fall that I think people have retconned it to be. It
Yeah,
obviously didn't leg out as well as the first two, but not far off.
yeah.
So I guess maybe the runs of Screams 1, 2, and 3 in from 96 2000 maybe is the height of Scream. But
Mhm.
at this point, the Scream movies are once again the best thing going when it comes to horror movies. I think right now the Scream franchise is again the most bankable thing in horror.
Yep.
It's overtaken Halloween. I think they sort of screwed the pooch on the Halloween movies reboot.
Yeah.
And Freddy's not out there, Jason's not out there. Jigsaw is a total mess right now. Lionsgate has got to
Mhm.
figure out the Saw situation. Paranormal Activity has been
On the
that camera's been
shelf.
on the shelf for a long time. Marked
Oh, well, they
ones.
did do a Paramount Plus. Remember, there was that Paramount Plus film, direct to Paramount Plus one that came out last year.
Right. Which is just more proof that the Paranormal Activity franchise is done ski. The
Absolutely.
Purge franchise, I think,
That's
is
Dunsky, that's
waned. Yeah.
Dunsky.
So Scream this weekend once again planted this series as the biggest series in horror.
Mhm.
And that to me is just an incredible feat all these years later, that this is now the most bankable thing in horror IP.
Yeah, I mean, and we're looking at a little bit of we'll get into demos and all that fun stuff, but we're
Hmm.
talking of not that this isn't fun, and every second of our show is fun,
Everything's
but
fun.
there was a lot of walk-up business for this, and post-track shows that 70% of the audience who saw this movie bought their tickets on Friday or Thursday.
Wow.
So that's why the tracking was off, because with these sorts of movies, when you have like broad demos and younger people, they're spur of the moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If it's not Marvel and they don't, and they're not like, I have my ticket, I want to show you it.
Right.
This is like they're partying, they're going here, they're going to a bar, and then they're like, let's go to Scream,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's
Right.
their swinging free lifestyle.
Right.
So 50%, this is why they went. 56% went to see Scream 6 as part of the franchise they love, right? So they're just
Mm-hmm.
Scream fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would put myself in that.
Mm-hmm.
33% came because Radio Silence directed it, which is impressive and actually a little bit surprising that they're that well known at this
That's
point.
very surprising.
But here's the big one. 24% came because it starred an actress they love, meaning in this Deadline article, they're being very nice by saying either Wednesday's Jenny Ortega or Vida's, which I guess was another television show, Melissa Barrera. Now, let's just get this out of the way. We're not critics, huh? We're not
Huh?
acting experts, huh?
Huh?
Melissa, way better in this one than the fifth one. And that's
Yes.
because she was given more, and she didn't have to do as much kind of exposition and all this stuff. She could actually be a true character. And I think there was a lot of hate for her in the fifth one. If you hated her in the fifth one, I think you're going to come around on her in the sixth one. That's just me kind of listen.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion. And we're not going to get into the
And you're
actual,
sticking to it.
and
Yeah.
I'll stick to it. But let's be honest here. Maybe 3% are there to see her.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny Ortega is, and you've said this by the water cooler, we're talking about this. She is the hottest star to be in one of these films since the whole franchise began. She is the
Yes.
hottest the star has been. Like in the second one, you had Sarah Michelle Gellar, who was doing so
Right.
good. She was in what she had been in
Buffy,
Cruel
I Know What You Did Last
Buffy.
Summer,
I know what you
Cruel
did. Right.
Intentions. Yeah.
Hot, hot, hot. She was hot, hot, hot.
Yeah.
You had the Noxzema girl in it.
Yes.
You had
Rebecca
Gayheart,
Gayheart. Yeah.
Rebecca Gayheart, right? And the Nev Campbell was hot, but she was hot from this movie.
Right.
Jenny Ortega, I think, is just a star emerging, an
Mm-hmm.
emerging scream queen, an emerging kind of like just icon with her dancing in Wednesday and stuff for a younger generation. She
Mm-hmm.
hosted SNL this weekend.
Yep. Yep.
So
She's
she's out there.
she's currently, I think the deal has been struck that she is going to star in the long-awaited Beetlejuice sequel. That
I
is the
mean,
word
yeah.
on the street that she in a
Is it
Tim
Beetlejuice
Burton.
Goes to Hawaii?
It is not. I think he stays in the continental United States.
Okay.
But it is a Tim Burton directed. Michael Keaton is back, and Jenny Ortega will play the daughter of Lydia Dietz, the Winona Ryder character. That is the
great.
word on the street right now. So she
That's
is
great casting.
poised to be a mega star.
And I think that's a big element is that
Mm-hmm.
it's a franchise people now love again. They're,
Yes.
those first couple movies are so rewatchable. People love 4 even now.
Yes.
And so, that's being reclaimed by a certain segment of the population, myself included, yourself included.
Right.
And so it's a consistent go-to sort of franchise with a hot star, and that's where you get 44.
Right. I'm gonna
it was in 3D, but if this was in IMAX, this thing would have made 50 probably.
Yes.
But but listen, Creed is in IMAX, and it should be because it was shot for IMAX. But we went and saw it in 3D. God, we forgot it was even in 3D. It was just, the 3D conversion was kind of, butt kiss here.
Yes. So let me throw a couple of things at you. We're not going to divvy up the millions for Scream, but let's play a quick little game of slash or cash. Is the thing I'm going to throw at you? Is it partly responsible for this movie making cash, or if not, do you give it a slash? Okay. So let's start off here with one of the stars of Scream 6, Courtney Cox, back as Gale Weathers. Did she make an impact at the box office? Does she get cash, or is she meaningless and you give her a slash?
Oh, I mean, Gail has now been in more movies than Sydney. She is one of those legacy characters. You got to give her cash.
Okay. So you're
I
giving
think there's people since I mean, people who haven't listened to this podcast, shame on you. People who haven't been following the news about Nev Campbell not getting paid enough to do this movie. The
Mhm.
fact that there's one legacy character, Gail. I mean, I don't count Kirby. I don't count her as honestly a legacy character. But I will say Gail did bring in some cash.
Okay. I agree, though I will say well, I don't want to spoil anything, so yeah. So we'll
I would
leave it
say
at
a
that.
smaller amount than she normally would. I think her and Nev doing 5, she gets more cash for that.
Yes, yes, yes. Um you mentioned her. Hayden Panettiere is back as Kirby, who is a
Yeah.
character from Scream 4. She was sort of the only, you know, added value element as far as legacy elements goes.
Mhm.
So, does Hayden Panettiere as Kirby get a slash, or does she provide cash?
Okay. Now, this might be controversial and having just said that I like Scream 4.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that this movie would have made the same with or without her.
Mm-hmm.
She is just basically a glorified Easter egg. And I'm
Yes.
going to have to give it a slash here.
Yes. I agree. I don't think that putting her in this matters. Scream 4, even if there's defenders of it, I happen to be one of them.
Mhm.
It is in some ways the least essential of the Scream movies. Whether
Yes.
it's as bad as some say or not, it definitely feels the most disconnected from the franchise. And
Yeah.
so I don't think the Kirby love was that strong where people
Let me
went to see
just
this
put
because
it
of
this
Kirby.
way. If they had done the Kirby Easter egg in 5, saying she's still alive, and she didn't show up in 6, people
Mhm.
wouldn't say, I'm not seeing it because Kirby's not in it.
Right, right, right. I agree. So let's go to a legacy character that did appear in the fifth movie, and then I don't think this is a spoiler to say also appears in the sixth movie. Skeet Ulrich as the
Oh.
as the vision slash ghost, de-aged ghost of Billy Loomis, made an appearance in the fifth movie because, of course, the character of Billy Loomis's daughter, Sam, is one of the main characters in this new cast. And she has visions of her father, played by a de-aged, ghostly Skeet Ulrich. So, do you think that Skeet Ulrich's ghost gets any of the cash for Scream Six's opening weekend, or can you slash Skeet
Well,
Ulrich?
now and, you're gonna get mad at me because you always get mad
Okay,
at me for this stuff.
always, always.
That was a spoiler that you just did because
Okay,
people don't know that Skeet Ulrich is in this one. They don't know that. That is I know he was in the 5th one,
yes.
but the fact that she's hearing that voice again is sort of a spoiler,
Well,
and so I
I'm,
do
I'm getting
feel
mad at
like
you. I'm
it's a
getting very
little
mad.
I mean, listen, I'm just
You knew
saying
I
it's
would.
kinda effed up. All I'm saying is it's effed
He
up and
was
you
re-
spoiled people.
he was reestablished in Scream 5 as part of the
Doesn't mean he had to come
cast.
back. It doesn't mean he had to come back. But
Oh,
anyway,
it
but
would
but
be
we
like
won't
saying
argue.
Gail. It would be like saying Gail being in this movie is a spoiler. Scream 5 reestablished Skeet Ulrich as just a member of the crew.
But listen, okay, what I'll say, listen, $12 million man. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that it was a soft spoiler. I would have preferred you didn't say it, but I'm gonna play along. And what I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
say is that he gets a slash here because
Okay.
again, it's not like anybody I think maybe for the 5th one, he could have gotten a little bit of cash,
Right.
but if they didn't bring that element back, then I still think people wouldn't be like, I'm not seeing this movie because they didn't bring the ghost back. Like he's not a reason why people want to see this movie.
See, I would give Skeet Ulrich some cash in this, and I wouldn't have in the fifth movie, because in the
Interesting.
fifth movie he was legitimately a surprise, and I would
Mm-hmm.
not have spoiled that on our first week discussion.
Well,
But
who knows? You may have.
going into this movie, people were maybe expecting him, because again, he's just part of the crew now. He is
Yeah.
Sam's dad, who she sees in visions, de-aged, still in the white t-shirt that he had when he was a murderer as a teenager.
Well, here's the
I'd give
thing
him some
about
cash. I'd give Skeet Ulrich some cash for this
here's the
opening.
interesting thing that we get into here is that obviously now this is gonna we're gonna get another movie. We're gonna get seven.
Yes, yes.
And so there is an element of like maybe next time that you don't get in some other movies where if he hadn't showed up in this movie, I think people would have thought, "Oh, maybe he'll show up next time," right? Like there
Uh-huh.
is that element with these that makes people less angry, like the Nev Campbell situation. People were
Right.
upset, but you look at these numbers, there weren't a lot of Nev Campbell stands who said, "I'm abstaining," who would have seen this movie, right?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
it had the biggest opening of all the Scream movies. So
Yeah.
I think there is an element of, well, she'll be back for 7. They've got to get her back for 7. Now, if they don't get her for 7, then there's people who might say, F this, I'm not seeing this movie. But there's always next time is one of the things that's happening with this franchise, and it is affecting who I'm giving cash to and slashes to.
See, I think at this point, um, one of the losers of this opening weekend is Nev Campbell, because I think this opening weekend shows the fan base. Of course, they love her, huh? She's Sydney,
Huh?
huh? She's the
Huh?
final girl of Scream, huh?
Huh?
But I think the fan base has shown they're okay with moving on from Nev Campbell, from Sydney. Obviously, when she comes back, that's a big value add. You put your marketing around that.
Yeah.
But I don't think fans will backlash at all if she's just not in 7.
Well,
I think this shows they've moved on.
do you think Creed 3, I mean, just to because we had a similar situation with Creed 3.
Yeah,
Do
same
you
thing.
think that Stallone is a loser because of Creed 3? He
No,
is
but
one
I
of the
think I
losers.
didn't say he's a loser, but I think he is someone who I think, yeah, I think in a way Stallone probably would have wanted Creed 3 to not be the biggest Creed movie ever without him.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know. But here
Well,
we're
and
going
the other thing about the difference between Stallone with the Creed movies and Nev Campbell with the Scream movies is Stallone, you watch the end of Creed 3, he's
he's a
still listed
producer.
as a producer. So
He's a
Stallone's still
producer.
getting his beak wet from these Creed movies, and Nev Campbell, unfortunately, is not getting her beak wet
Her
from
beak is
Scream
dry.
sequels. Her beak is dry.
Her
So
beak is
I
dry.
would say Nev Campbell unfortunately gets a slash here, because she got no cash from this. And I hate to say it, she's Sydney, but I think Sydney finally got slashed in one of these Scream movies because it
Yeah.
did so well without her. New York City. That seemed to be the big value
Oh,
add for Scream 6, the fact that they were leaving Woodsboro, going to New York. They previously did Scream 3 in LA, but they did this one, Scream 6 is in New York, and that was the biggest part of the marketing. Does New York City get a slash or cash for this
you know
opening
what?
weekend?
I mean, again, we had this conversation. I mean, I don't think this is a spoiler to say that they did not shoot this movie in New York. They shot it in Vancouver or somewhere in
Mhm.
Canada, obviously. But as somebody who used to watch films and television based in New York City and ached to be there, I'm
Mhm.
never not going to give the greatest city in the world cash,
Mhm.
even if our terrible mayor is going to waste it on something stupid. I do
Mhm.
think that New York City does get cash because I mean, that trailer on the subway, I mean, listen, it was definitely a value add. The fact that they weren't in Woodsboro anymore,
Mhm.
was a value add. A change of
Mhm.
scenery did this movie good.
Mhm. Mhm.
What
Yeah, I
about
agree.
yourself? Okay.
Oh, New York City, it's a huge win for New York, because New York was basically the biggest value add of the Scream sequel, and it was the biggest one in the franchise.
Mhm.
So, it just shows that New York is still, the biggest draw going, and it's still where people, fantasize themselves being and fantasize themselves getting stabbed to death. The
Better
average
stabbed
per
here than
Right.
not stabbed in, like, no offense, but where's the place that,
Where are you
Idaho?
from? Or
Oh,
what's
what?
your
Oh, come on.
what
That's low.
wouldn't
That's
you
low even for you. That's low
wouldn't you
even for
rather
you.
be stabbed by Ghostface in New York than just live a long life? And where are you from again?
Oh my god, you're such a I'm not gonna say, but it is
It's
yes,
outside Pittsburgh,
it's
right? It's an
outside Pittsburgh, yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
of
Of
course,
course,
Pat,
of
of
course,
course.
of
Even though
course.
you were really trying to, take a shot at me there, I will agree with you
Yes,
that, yes,
yes.
of course, I don't wanna be there because if I wanted to be there, I would be there, and I don't.
Um, one more, and I think this is a simple one, and we could talk about uh uh just how much cash, but slash or cash, Ghostface.
I mean, come on, Cash.
So is Ghostface now, and maybe has Ghostface been for a while, the most bankable horror villain?
I mean, at this point, yes. And the
Mm-hmm.
interesting thing about Ghostface is that Ghostface is refillable in
Yes.
a
Yes.
way that all the other ones aren't, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Chucky is Chucky and Jason is Jason. And when they tried to make somebody else Mike Myers or Halloween or whatever it's funny because it's like, what is he's Mike Myers. But this last movie where they tried to make this other dude Mike Myers or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that it was a failure. So, like, I do think Ghostface has got that iconic mask. I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
sign of quality in the way that other movies aren't. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think at this point, he is the most bankable. Now, of
Yeah.
all time, it's hard because, like, man, nobody sold more merch than Freddy. So
Right.
if we're
Right.
talking who's
Well,
made the most cash overall, Freddy had an album. Ghostface doesn't have an album, although that's not a bad idea.
yeah, I mean the thing with Ghostface is, well, he,
He's got an iconic voice.
he's got an iconic voice, and um having him just be the anyone could do the voice with an app was
Mhm.
one of the most brilliant moves that the series made.
Yeah.
Or a voice modulator, or wherever I think it started as like a voice modulating box, probably in
Yeah.
the
Oh,
early
yeah,
movies.
yeah,
They
because
probably had
they
like a
talk into it.
Yeah, so they had like a big, large box, and now it's just an app on the phone. And
Yeah.
that is something that Freddy and Jason can't match.
Freddy does not
That
have an app
Yeah. Yeah. So
yet,
I
yet.
Yet. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a slam doink right now. Ghostface is the biggest movie star amongst horror villains, you
And that's
know?
not saying listen, I mean, there's gonna be another Jason movie, there's gonna be another Freddy movie,
Right.
but, like, at this point, I don't see them coming back to prominence in the way that they had.
Right. And just no horror franchise has ever been as consistent as Scream. Scream has
Mhm.
had one movie that didn't do well. Scream 4 is the only one that you could say didn't open. All the other ones, well, Scream 1 didn't open big, but then had one of the leggiest runs ever.
Yeah.
All the sequels opened except for Scream 4.
Yeah.
And there is no other horror franchise that has that consistency. Honestly, the closest thing is the Saw franchise.
Yeah.
And the problem with the Saw franchise, of course, is that their villain was an elderly man who died in the, I think, second or third movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Pretty
that has
early on.
always been a problem for them.
Yeah, that's been a problem.
And it is not refillable in the way that
That's the
Ghostface
thing.
is.
Ghostface is refillable.
Yeah. Here's one other thing. that I'd want to bring up as it relates to this Scream opening weekend. So this is a
Sure.
Paramount picture,
Oh, love
another
it.
huge win for Paramount. And here is something that I think is going to be looked back at as a winner of this Scream opening weekend, and that is Paramount's Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Yes, this is going to be an Elvis situation,
Yep.
a Top Gun slash Elvis situation,
Yes.
but only it's going to
100.
be for the same studio.
Yep. Yep. Because Paramount's Dungeons and Dragons movie with Chris Pine,
Pine,
with Chris
yes.
Pine, opens, I think, on Friday, March 31st. So it opens
Wow.
in about 3 weeks.
March is
Yeah.
so packed, man.
So packed.
I'm so
And
excited for March.
and
We're in
that's a
it. I mean,
movie.
I'm excited right now.
Very excited. And that's a movie that I think on the surface people were thinking, that might be a bomb. It's Dungeons and Dragons movie and it looks kind of cheesy maybe. But this trailer is going to be playing in front of everyone who saw Scream. And me and you saw this trailer this weekend and it was pretty funny. It looked
Yes.
more amusing than I thought it was going to be. And
Mhm.
I think that movie has sold a lot of tickets because that trailer played in front of Scream this weekend.
I mean, it sold me.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I was on the fence as to whether I wanted to see that movie, even though I'm a big fan of Chris Pine
Mhm.
and the I believe, and I might be wrong on this, but I know that John Daly and his writing partner, who are, John Daly we know used to be, on Freaks and Geeks. Is that his name, John Daly? No, what's his
Yes.
that's yeah,
John
John
Francis
Daly.
Daly. Yeah.
John Francis
Yes.
Daly. That's right. He did the Francis because there's so many other John Dalys.
Yep.
He did Game Night, a movie that a lot of people loved, and it was like a sneaky hit that has
Yep.
one of the biggest comedies in the past couple of years because comedies have not been big.
Mhm.
But creatively, it looks interesting. And
Mhm.
also, we're ready now as a culture for Dungeons and Dragons because when they put out that Dungeons and Dragons movies in the 90s, that was some dork shit. And people didn't want
Mhm.
dork shit back then.
Right.
Now,
Right.
we've had Game of Thrones, you've had House of Dragons. Dork shit is huge.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this looks like it's got good humor, fun action. It's a cast of people that have been in other stuff before, but they feel like it's kind of unique that they're in this movie.
Mhm.
And I think
Mhm.
that is very big for this film and Paramount. I mean, they're just continue to market so well and have hits that then will go onto their platform and make that a viable going concern.
Yes. Yes. So I think Dungeons and Dragons, that movie gets a huge, huge boost from Scream opening so big this weekend.
And
Um,
let me just get into real quick. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we got to do
mhm.
these demos because
Yes.
one of the reasons why we now think Dungeons and Dragons is going to do Buffa Bobo is because look at these demos for Scream
Mhm.
6. 50-50 male and female, right?
Amazing.
Great. 63% between 18 and 34. And the largest crowd was between 18 and 24. So
Wow.
41% of that was between 18 and 24.
Wow.
Now, here's the mix. Diversity, 38 Latino and Hispanic, 38 Caucasian, 12% Black, and 12% Asian. So a little
Wow.
low on Black, right? It's not as
Mhm.
popular with the Black community, the Scream movies. But, you have Melissa Barrera, you have Jenny Ortega. So Latino and Hispanic moviegoers they're resonating with them.
Yes. 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 It's I mean, it's great to see an audience that young, that diverse. And again, it shows how healthy the Scream franchise is. Scream basically, I think, especially with those diversity demos and the age demos, shows that the fandom has officially moved on from just people who were curious about the old movies, from the
Mhm.
legacy fans. This
Yeah.
has basically been successfully rebooted as a new franchise with young stars for young people,
Yeah.
which is why, again, I think your Nev Campbells and other legacy characters and actors are no longer needed going forward.
Yes.
Obviously, it's a nice thing. You could have them get on talk shows and talk about how much they loved Wes Craven, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think it matters anymore. This series has officially graduated on from the original series.
And you got it because we did give cash to Courtney Cox, and she has, when you look at her social media followers, it's in the tens. It's in like she has like 15 million Instagram followers or whatever. Because you got to
Wow.
remember, she's also a friend,
Right.
and Friends is still big, and
Right.
so
Right.
she does. I mean, if you're gonna keep Gail over Nev, if just from a marketing perspective, Courtney Cox can reach
Mm.
more people than Nev Campbell.
Wow. Wow. And
I
listen,
mean, that's just the facts. That
those are
is
the facts.
dollars and donuts.
Yes. 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 And you know what? And people still love Skeet Ulrich. And I think he's officially graduated into the younger demo also loving de-aged Skeet Ulrich.
Yeah.
Because you know what? When you de-age Skeet Ulrich, he's going to be beloved by any young generation.
Mhm.
As long as he's de-aged,
Yeah.
he'll forever be a teen idol. So I
Yeah.
think this is great for him too. So
Will
yeah,
Skeet
Screams.
Ulrich be the world's oldest teenager? Because Dick
Yeah.
Clark is, dust and bones at this point.
Yes. 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 You could not put him in a Scream sequel
Yeah.
anymore. As refillable as Ghostface is, you cannot fill him with Dick Clark.
No.
So, just quickly looking at anything else. Creed 3, great hold in its second weekend. A movie that opens that big, you would expect a big, big drop. It only dropped 53%. I
Mhm.
mean, it's just Scream and Creed are as healthy as franchises get. They are hitting their apex right now.
Yeah.
Um, and
So,
you know,
are we gonna see in the same month, in the same year,
mhm.
3 franchises have their biggest openings of their whole entire histories back to back to back, right? Not I mean, of course, there's gonna be stuff in the middle, but we're talking Creed 3, then
Mhm.
Scream, and
Mhm.
coming up, John Wick. I mean, John Wick is just around the corner,
Wow.
and that thing
Wow.
is supposed to be huge.
Huge. Huge.
Huge, huge.
So, yeah, very possible. Very, very possible. And as far as franchises go, of course, Ant-Man and the Wasp in Quantumania is just a complete dud.
Well, I
Dropped another
guess we did see,
44%.
we were seeing the not the resurgence, but we're seeing the ascension of 3 franchises and the death of another franchise. I mean, many
Mhm.
people have I mean, here's the thing. This might seem like easy to do now, looking at these numbers and all of the critical feedback, but, like, can we officially, put dirt over Ant-Man
Yes.
and the Wasp?
Yes.
Not that they won't show up in the other Marvel movies, of course, they're gonna show up in the Avengers, but, like, Ant-Man as a movie franchise, there may never ever be another Ant-Man movie.
I would bet that is the case. I
Yeah,
think
right?
Ant-Man gets demoted to being not just a side character in movies, but possibly just a side character who does cameos in Disney Plus shows. I think he may be demoted
Wow.
that far. This is
Whoa.
a terrible, terrible box office run for Quantumania.
Yeah.
I think he gets the boot all the way down to Disney Plus.
Terrible, terrible, that's a terrible way to end things.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's where we're at. So just quickly before we go, I just want to read a quick email that we got from our friend Danny. Of course, Danny is the host of I Scream. I'm sorry, I Screen, You Scream for number
Number
four, the
4.
movie. Great podcast. And it's a podcast that is partially named after the Scream movies.
Yeah.
The ghost face mask is part of the logo for Danny's podcast. So Danny wrote, he wrote, subject line, I scream, you scream for Scream 6. So that's the
Mhm.
subject line. And he says, Sup, Pat and Clay. This is a fun fact I want to throw out. When I started my podcast, my first movie review I done to start was Scream 5 or West Cream 5.
Mhm.
And ever since then, Scream 6 got announced and wonder how they're going to make this without Nev Campbell. But I am here to report the Scream franchise will never die. I got to see the latest one Thursday night, had an awesome time. Loving this sequel even more than the previous installment that I began my show with. Sometimes I wish to say I wish Scream 6 was last year that I could start my podcast with that movie. Wow. So Danny
Mhm.
is a youngster and he loved Scream 6. He wished Scream
That's
6 had been
huge.
Scream 5 so that he could have started his podcast with that movie. That's an amazing review.
Yeah, so, we also got a great email from wannabe oh boy Austin. Austin, welcome back, my friend,
Mhm.
friend of the pod. I was trying to
Mhm.
avoid saying that, but inevitably that's what he is.
Mhm.
He went with 11 million for 65, so he did not nail it, but he got very close and higher than other
Right.
people's tracking.
Not as high as me.
So
Yep.
he's very much on the champions boat too, that this could be a Heartland Red America type hit, right?
Mm.
It limits its potential being a focus feature, but still, I mean, listen, 5, this thing could end up making what, like 12? What do you think? 20? Is that too high for this? Do you think
I
it
mean, listen,
gets
if it has the
15?
legs, I mean, I'm looking at Austin's email. Austin pretty much nailed it. He predicted 5 for the weekend for champions.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, champions could have a 4 times multiplier and get over 20 million
'Cause this is
because
the kinda movie that, say, we went and saw Scream this weekend, obviously, because we had to. It was number 1 on our list.
right.
But that doesn't mean that the good number for it, the fact that I mean, we don't really read reviews when it comes to the Farrelly Brothers movies because we know how critics can be about them.
Mhm. Mhm.
But, I mean, I'm interested to see this. I was before, but even more so now that I see 5,000,000. If this movie made 1, 2,000,000, $3,000,000, I might not be as interested to see it. I'm just being honest because I'm
Right.
a BO boy at heart, right? I
Right.
don't like that stench associated with me because I know it clings to you.
Right.
And so I'm gonna probably see this movie this week, hopefully. And I know you had plans if you're able to. You're like, "Hey, maybe I'll pop in and see this movie." So
Maybe.
that is something that with a bevy of choices, you're gonna have your number 1 choice that you go to see, and then you're gonna have your number 2 choice, and hopefully you get to see that not opening weekend.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think Champions is gonna multiply well. It needed to open decently and it did. And I could see it getting it up to 20. That's very
That'd be
possible at this
awesome.
point.
20 for Champions would show so much about the health of the box office, and even
Yep.
without that,
Yeah.
it's gonna, I think box office is very healthy
Very,
indeed.
very healthy. And this weekend was the Oscars and Everything Everywhere All at Once won all the big Oscars. It won Best Picture, Writer, Director, 3 acting awards. And you know what? I love that that happened because that was a movie that before it was an awards favorite, it was a BO champion. It was a leggy BO hit almost exactly a year ago, legged out to over 70 million domestic. So we love to see a box office success get the Oscar.
Yeah.
The Oscar didn't go to some movie that made $2 million or was a streaming movie, huh?
Huh.
It went to a genuine box office hit. So love to
Yep.
see that.
There we go.
All
All
right.
right, Pat. Well, yeah, I mean, I think we did it. So, like, where can they find us?
Well, of course, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, whatever podcast platform you're using, but Apple's the only one that really matters. So give us a
Mhm.
5-star review there. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. I'm pointing down. That is where you like. That is where you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. The videos are up there, and it's a lot of fun to comment with other YouTube subscribers to the BO Boys. They're mixing it up there. They're having a good time. It's a great, great place to hang out, a nice, I would say, a safe, and there's a lot of cool stuff happening over at the BO Boys YouTube channel. A
A lot
lot
of
of
cool
cool
stuff
stuff.
happening. And we
So
just
go
got a
there.
recommendation to watch a movie that we hadn't seen, Devotion.
Yes,
And we're
Devotion
gonna
with Jonathan Majors. Yes,
yeah, we've heard that it's not your normal sort of, movie like
yeah,
that, and we were excited when
yeah,
we heard that. So,
yeah,
I'm gonna watch Devotion. I like both of
yeah,
I mean, especially now, Jonathan Majors loved him in Creed 3,
yeah. He was
and Glen
great.
Powell, listen, I mean, this if this is an above average type of movie, then I'm gonna see it.
Yeah, so thank you to the YouTube subscriber who gave us that recommendation there. So subscribe, smash that like button, so smash that subscribe button over on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter, social media at the BO Boys Pod. Wanna BO intern Christopher doing a great job there, curating and creating videos for our social media. He's killing it. And yeah, like I said, email us at theboboyspodcast at gmail.com. We love getting your emails, reading your emails like we did from Danny and Austin just now. So that is theboboyspodcast at gmail.com. And I think that's it, right, Clayton?
I mean, for a limited time, you
Hmm.
still have another podcast, right?
I do have another podcast. I, of course, am the co host along with Nick Turner of the Show Me the Money on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We cover the Academy Awards, the award season, but specifically the gambling. We told you who to bet on, and Nick and I bet a lot of money on the Oscars, and we won a lot of money on the Oscars. So, on our final episode of the season of the Show Me the Money, listen to how much money we made from gambling, because gambling is where it's at. You have to gamble, 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 gamble. You have to take all the money that you have and put it into gambling. Gamble on the award shows like we do on the Show Me the Money on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, but gamble on whatever you have to gamble on, because it's all about gambling. It's all about taking what you have, selling what you have, getting what you don't have, but finding money to gamble with. And we teach you how to gamble. We tell you about how much we gambled. We talk about gambling. We show you gambling. It is all about gambling. It is nonstop gambling, gambling sites, people to gamble with, people who know other people who gamble. That is what we talk about on the Show Me the Money on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Is nothing but gambling, 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 more gambling. You have to gamble. Never, ever stop gambling. Gamble all the time. If you are awake, you should be gambling. If you are asleep, you should be dreaming about what you're going to gamble on. And we will teach you that on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, the Show Me the Money, starring me and Nick Turner, where we gamble. It is nonstop gambling, gambling forever. You must stop listening to this right now and gamble, 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 gamble. Always be gambling. Always be gambling. Gamble, 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 gamble.
Gambling problem? Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. That's 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, 467-369. Or don't. I mean,
Or don't. It
what
doesn't matter.
what are you gonna do?
Nope.
All right, Pat. Well, I think we did it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't think there's anything left to say.
No.
Except until next time.
Will
smell
you
you at
at
the